the point of this session is really, in my opinion, this is really what this whole weekend is about. What this weekend about is that this is the Aish HaTorah Partners Conference. What does that mean? It means we're here, each one of us can make a difference with the Jewish people, and we're here to be inspired ourselves through all the wonderful classes, shirim, and personalities that you're meeting, and and the beautiful Shabbos with so many people. It touches us, it lifts us, it propels us to want to do more. But one of the most powerful things, in my opinion, is just to meet people who are already doing, who are already involved, to me, just, I know so many of you, and to me, I'm amazed by what you are already doing. I'm changed by what you, really, I can't, it's hard for me to believe what special people are in this room. And I think it's therefore fitting just so you're here and we share with each other, and even that we get to know each other, that we know what special, unique individuals there are who are making a difference, that we can get to know each other and work together. We had a little meeting last night, which was with the JWRP people, but this is sort of an addendum to that, but it stands on its own if you weren't there. But I'm going to ask Eric Hirsch, who's one of our great friends from JInspire, to say a few words. And I'm going to kick you out in 5 minutes.
I got it.
I
know. So my name is Eric Hirsch, and I have been on 2 trips. I went on the original men's trip, and I went on the second level men's trip as well. So the first trip was 4 years ago, the second trip was a year and a half ago. So the tail end of itself is really somewhat unremarkable, but I'm going to kind of start now and then jump back, because I think the beginning is really kind of what makes this story a little special. So since the second trip, and I grew up a Reform with very little secular background. My family was in, did the holidays pretty much, and that was my Judaism, and I was excited about that. So I put on tefillin every day, and I wear tzitzit, even though I don't wear kippah, because I don't feel I represent what it stands for to everyone else who's looking at me. But I'm not here to say that that's amazing. But 4.5 years ago, I was, like a lot of people, I was perfectly happy with my place in Judaism. I was perfectly happy with where I was, going to temple every once in a while, not connecting, and that's where I was. Now my wife, to her, has always been on a journey and always been learning a little bit, and she went on the first women's, on an early trip, and then she went on a second women's trip, and they were starting to do things and she was getting very into and very excited. And this may sound strange, but I actually thought to myself that maybe I should divorce my wife because I'm never going to be a frum guy. Because I saw the joy that she was getting out of it, and I had no desire or understanding of what that was. So they did a men's trip, and we go on this trip, and no one knew what to expect. And I put on tefillin for the first time in the airport, and I go there, and we go through I won't tell you everything. Obviously, people have been there. It's amazing. A lot of people, the great people, great rabbis, passion everywhere. Now, I don't know about you, but I have never been exposed to passion in Judaism. I never felt it from the rabbis who I had. I never felt it from educators that I had. And so it was understandable that when I went to temple, the experience was like having food that had no flavor. So I sat there with a prayer book, and I'd read words that didn't matter to me because I had no connection whatsoever to the words or to God. And so I thought about this a lot, and really what the trip did for me, and I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but it felt a little bit like I had a father who was estranged, and he gave me life, but was no longer present for me, and I showed up in his house a few times a year and had very superficial interventions. It was never meant anything. When we went through the experience, and obviously all the guys they felt like kindred spirits, even though we didn't know each other. We showed up from different places. People didn't know what to expect, but I remember specifically Lloyd in the mikvah, well, and not in the mikvah, but I do remember that as well, but that's a totally different experience. But something that he said, there was a vulnerability that he allowed himself to express, as well as Charlie Harari and just every one of the rabbis on our trip. And you were allowed to share and you were allowed to connect, and it was amazing. And we went to the hotel for the first time, and actually before that, I had, 1 minute, I got it. I ventured down to Maimonides' tomb in the middle of the night on the first night I was there in Tiberias. And then we got back to our room at like 2:30 in the morning, and remember that was the first night we'd been to Israel. Whatever, sleep is overrated. So I was at early chakras, and that was fine. And I remember writing to myself a note in a book, in a journal I had. Now, this is the very first day, and it said something to the effect of, this is all really great, but am I really going to change my life? There's certain, I have to do something in order to change my life. So when I went to the hotel and walked across and sat and stood there and honestly opened my heart probably for the first time, I connected to God. I felt Hashem. And I felt like what Jay Inspire did was reunite me to that Father, but also to all the missing family as well. I suddenly connected to every other Jew and the brothers in my group, and it was unbelievable. And I'll end, but I have to tell you, I came home because I certainly was not something I expected. And it didn't come home like, wow, let me put on a kippah and start going. But I actually got a little nervous and said, I don't know what happened, but I got to figure out if Hashem is real. Because maybe this is the Kool-Aid they talk about. But the one thing I will tell you about the Kool-Aid that I realized over the 4 years is that the Kool-Aid they talk about, unfortunately, is life I was leading before, and all the other Jews that don't really know that you can experience this level of joy from Judaism, from praying and being with one another and celebrating Hashem and the Torah, and that's really where I am. So, thank
you. Wow. It's a little bit like Liana last night. I'm Josh, and Josh goes, it's a hard act to follow. It's like, Anyway, I when I was we were preparing for this convention, so somehow I got a list of some people coming, I can't remember what it was exactly, and so the name Lefko came up, and then I said, Lefko? I said, Amy Lefko? I said, yes, Amy Lefko. So I just remembered that Amy Lefko was, when I was on the Women's Chizuk mission, that sounds a little funny, but I was, many years ago, I was helping, in fact, on the Women's Chizuk mission. In fact, I think it was the one time that somebody came over to my wife and said, oh, it's amazing that you let your husband go on the trip. She says, what are you talking about? She said, the Women's Chizuk mission. I'm like, I meant to tell you. That was one of the most embarrassing ones. Yeah, I hadn't quite spoken to her that was teaching on that. But okay, but anyway, I met Amy Lefko from Norfolk, Virginia, and I just remember Amy as being someone who has done really special things, and it was really a schus to see her again after a number of years. And I asked her if she would say a few words about what she's doing.
I didn't even talk yet. Thank you. Behind. Okay. I've done I have been very blessed to have the opportunity to do some things and to work for the Jewish people. I have brought some JWRP trips over the years to everybody familiar with JWRP, the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project? Okay, just making sure. I have brought some JWRP trips from Norfolk. I've been involved in many of the Aish Torah Women's Chizuk trips, which I have Chizuk sisters sitting in here right now, and when I say sisters, I mean sisters. And my involvement in those two things, along with a rabbi who inspired me along the way, I was inspired to really do more things in our community as far as getting involved in teaching, and I teach in our JCC, and I'm teaching now in our girls' high school. And I'm always looking for a Jewish woman because, as my husband likes to say about the JWRP, the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project, it's like Hotel California, that you can check in, but you can never leave. And it's really, and I say that, really, I say that with the best feeling because I never want to leave. But it's not these things that I'm doing that I really want to tell you about in particular. What I want to tell you is that when you take this on, when you truly internalize that you're a soldier in the army of Hashem, and everyone who's sitting in this room right now is a soldier in the army of Hashem, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be here. You'd be home. You'd be out at the movies, you'd be out whatever you usually do Motzei Shabbos. If you are at the Aish weekend, then you're here because you believe in what Aish is about. And the beautiful thing is that when you choose to work for Hashem and for His people, to make a difference for His people, you get to be in this partnership with Him that you get to really see Him. And you get to see the miracles that He does, and you get to see His hand in the world, and you get to see how He moves around the chess pieces. You get to see Hashgacha Pratis, divine supervision, Hashem's hand, how He actually gets involved in our lives and in this world. You get to see it firsthand. Sometimes when it happens, I walk around. Any Harry Potter fans in the room? I feel like I'm a wizard in a world of muggles when this happens to me, if you get the analogy. Like, I get to see God right here while everybody else is walking around going, God, where's God? God, where's God? Even the people who believe in God are going, where's God? Where's God? And I get to see Him. So when you take on this cause and you really internalize that you're here and you're a soldier in His army, and you're going to do what you need to do for the Jewish people, for His people. He's your partner. You get to see Him, and it takes life to a whole new level. And then you don't just get to see Him in the holy work that you're doing. You get to see Him all over the place, and it's really, you get to see Him in the parking spot, the close parking spot that you get at the grocery store. You get to see Him in the green lights when you're late for a doctor's appointment. And I'm telling you, you're looking at the world through a whole different set of glasses. So I encourage you, yes, do it for the Jewish people, because that's what you should be doing. That's what we should all be doing. But do it for yourselves also, because it's so much fun. It's so cool. And you get to be a wizard in a world of muggles, and it's the best. It's really the best. Okay, thank you.
It's amazing. Somebody who, I don't know, some of you here know Mrs. Reifer from Borough Park, but I remember one of the times when she was speaking, so one of my colleagues said, she says she never met Rav Noach, but she sounds just like him. So I tell you, Amy Lefko, wow, it would be so nice to hear you. Thank you so much for joining. We have a couple of people from Borough Park to Borough Park, not Amy Lefko, Mrs. Rice, but we have a couple of people sitting quietly in the back. They were sort of trying to hide in the corner over there, but they can't like quite find that hiding spot. So we see you, but Yidi and Mrs. Klein are sitting in the back, and these are, I want to tell you, some of my favorite people in the world. I'm just telling you, these people are unbelievable, like the rest of you, you know. And Yidi is not really involved in JWRP, but he's involved with Project Inspire, and he's done absolutely amazing things. Yidi or Mrs. Klein, please, please come up. And Mrs. Klein is saying no, but she's also spoken for us and sent a lot of people to Israel and things like that. But come on, Yidi, come on up.
So good Woche, everybody. What an amazing Shabbos, right? So I want to tell you about my journey with Project Inspire. It actually happened about 8-9 years ago. But before, I just want to fast forward for just a small anecdote that happened about a year ago. About a year ago, right after the summer, my model of inspiration and my hero, we call him our fearless leader, Rabbi Sampson, called me up that we're having a trip to Denver. And if I want to come along, there's 90,000 unaffiliated Jews in Denver, and we have to bring them closer. So I asked him who's going. He said Rabbi Barnett, and Rabbi Becher, and Rabbi Sampson, others. So I asked him, so where do I fit in exactly? So he tells me, you know what, I need you because you're a nobody, and you're going to get up there, and you're going to tell them, if you're nobody and you can do a kiruv, anybody can do a kiruv. Because we just want all the professionals, we want everybody to get involved. So that was my introduction to Denver. So let me back up. So 8-9 years ago, I came for a Shabbos, a Project Inspire Shabbos, and it was an amazing Shabbos as usual. Amazing speakers, it was so inspirational, it was so amazing. So, Matzah Shabbos, there were sign-up cards as we walked out. And they asked us, how do we want to get involved with Project Inspire? So they gave us a few options. So one was making phone calls or baking or cooking or whatever. One was if you want to learn with a chavrusa, Torah mate. So I was thinking, I'll check that one off. And I put it into a box, and I was thinking nothing's going to come of it. A few weeks later, my phone rings. And I pick up the phone, and I didn't recognize the number. And he said, oh, is this E.D. Klein? So I said, yes. We found you a chavrusa. So I said, I think you got the wrong E.D. Klein. I'm not in yeshiva anymore. I'm not looking for a chavrusa. Yeah? So he told me, you know, remember a few weeks ago, you were in Project Inspire and the Shabbos, and you signed up, and a card. So I was thinking, oh, I had that momentary lapse of sanity, and I picked up that. Well, I don't know why I didn't just do baking, you know, or something. You know, my wife will bake a cake, and it'll be fine. So I was thinking, okay, so give me the guy's number. And I was thinking, I'll call him when I get around to it. So I said, no, we already gave the other guy your number, and he's going to call you. So a few days later, he actually calls me. He tells me, my name is Alex, and lives in Queens. And he's not affiliated. He doesn't know much about Judaism, but he's interested. And I got to speak to him a little bit. He said his wife is totally not interested. He has 2 daughters in public school. But he wants to learn. So I said, okay, we made up a time once a week, Thursday night, we're going to learn for an hour. So we started learning. And this went on for a whole year. We kept on learning. And then every week, he was like asking me more questions about kashrus and about Shabbos and all different things. I thought he's getting more, his commitment was starting to grow. And so we decided that the next Project Inspire Shabbos, we're going to call him for Shabbos, and we got his wife to come because he was telling me his wife is always giving him a hard time and she's not on board. So we got his wife to come, and his wife was amazed by the whole Shabbos. And she said, you know what, I'm interested, I really want to pursue this further. So my wife got involved, and she got her onto the JWRP trip. And remember her, right? And when she came back, she said, I'm totally on board. She said, the Shabbos, I had a lot of questions, I got to answer, but now with the trip, I'm ready. Long story short, the bottom line is they're both very frum. Both daughters are in yeshiva now, and it's a full frum. And now he's even telling me he's going to Daf Yomi Shir. So when he's calling me now, he's teaching me Gemara. So it's changed, the whole dynamic changed now. So on that Shabbos, actually, just mitzvah gereres mitzvah, how it just came about. We were doing the Friday night by davening, we were doing the dance, and we know the musical chair stopped. And there's no coincidence, you know, there's one word that doesn't exist in the Jewish language, it's coincidence. So it happened to be that Alex was dancing in a different area, and so I sit down, I see a guy next to me, a young guy, tall, long hair with jeans, and I ask him what's his name. He tells me his name is Roger. So we got to talk after davening, He tells me that he wandered in here because a few years ago he was in Aish and he signed up and they got his name and his email address. 1 minute? Okay, long story with Roger is, whatever, Sunday I asked him if he put on film, and he said he never put on film, and we took him out, I took him out, I put him on film for the first time. He said it was the most emotional moment. And then I told him if I buy him film, he'll put on every day. He said yes. So I got him a pair of film. I sent him, he was in Bushwick at the time, and it was Friday when the film finally arrived. And I was watching online to see when he's going to get it. So he finally got at 12 noon. I called him up. I told him, Roger, you got my package? He said, yes, thank you very much. I got the film. So let's put it on. It'll be like the first time. Let's do a FaceTime, maybe a tutorial over the phone. So he tells me, I would put it on now, but I have to run. I'll put it on first thing Saturday morning. So I told him, no, it's Saturday. Bottom line is, he moved. He told me if he wants to pursue this thing, he has to move. He moved to Flatbush. The Flatbush community was very warm, and they embraced him. And then to the point where we got close to him, and he made, right now, he made Aliyah. He's fully from. He's married. His wife is from. And Baruch Hashem, they're living a nice, from lifestyle. So that's a couple of stories. We wouldn't have that much time. I just want to conclude. No, I just want to say that there's more Rogers than Alexes out there. And over the years, we have a lot of guests that came over to the house, and we kept in touch with them. We even created a Project Inspire WhatsApp group. And we constantly posting the Torah, words of inspiration, kiruv, all different ideas, how we can get other people involved and get closer. And then to the point where it stretched that my friends wanted to get involved. Right now, this movement is over 5 WhatsApp groups, and it involves over 400 people that read the inspirational Dvar Torahs every day. So there's more Alexes and more Rogers out there, and we can just, with the media of technology, we can reach them so much easier. Shabbos, thank you very much, Chaim.
Yiddi Klein, what do you say? Thank you, Yiddi Klein. A few months ago, I got an email, and I see this email from someone that I knew from a long time. I don't know what he's going to say, so I don't give away what he's going to say. But it was someone that I knew from a long time ago, and he's asking me about, Project Inspire. I think, what's this guy asking me about? I don't know. And it was whatever. It was wild to me what this person I knew from way back when is doing now, and what a person can accomplish, and where they can go to. Not that I was surprised or anything, but it was just unbelievable. And I'd like to call upon Mark Jacob, an old dear friend of mine, who's now living in St. Louis for quite a while. And
so I am a nobody who does kiruv. My name is Mark Jacob. I know Rabbi Sansom from way back, but how I got there is not so simple. So my wife asked me what I was going to speak about, and I said I didn't know. She said, "Tell them about your business." So if anyone wants a real estate attorney in Missouri or Illinois, just give me a call. Rabbi Sampson will get you the number. So there we go. Did my plug. So on September 11th, 2001, I was waking up in a hotel room in Ahmedabad, India. Okay, if anyone knows India, probably not too many of you. Ahmedabad is a 45-minute plane ride north of Mumbai. My father was born in Mumbai. He's part of a small Jewish community from India dating back 2,500 years. I had finished law school at Cornell. I was not religious, not involved. I was involved Jewishly, always Hillel and Jewish things, but not religious. And I decided that after law school, I had saved up some money. I want to go on a trip, right? So I was working at a big law firm in New York. They said you could start in September or October. I said, October, I'm going on a trip. They said, great. So I took some money. I went to Scotland. I went to England. And then I went to India. I still have some family there in Mumbai. And I went to stay with my family for 2 weeks, my first cousin and his family. So, you're in India, and so you want to see certain things. And so Bombay is very nice, but my father grew up in Ahmedabad. So we went there. We went there for Shabbat, actually. They had a minyan on Shabbat. We went there. You take your shoes off before you walk into the synagogue there. And we davened there. I sat in the seat where my grandfather and my father sat when he was a child. It was very powerful, very nice. And, Shabbat was over. We're there during the week also, spending a little time. And you're in India, so you want to see the Taj Mahal. So I said to my cousin, let's go see the Taj Mahal. He says, okay, I'll make arrangements. Let's go. So I wake up one morning, September 11th, and I see he's watching TV. And I say, oh, what kind of movie is this? It looks like, a plane just flew into a building. He goes, what? I go, what is this? He goes, it's Sky News. I go, what? What do you mean Sky? What are you talking about? He goes, plane just hit the World Trade Center. Now, that's very scary. I went to school in Lower Manhattan, 2 blocks from the World Trade Center. My school shook when the bombings happened a few years prior to that. And so I was already talking about it, and we're watching TV as the second plane flies in, right? And so we're sitting there. And, to fast forward that story, the Taj Mahal was not so fun for me that day, as you might imagine, very kind of sad look on my face. And so I get back to New York, and I start my job at this big law firm, and business is very slow. And I'm like, whatever happened to all this, like you're going to be working your butt off, you're never going to go home, there's nothing to do. I'm there for months with very little to do. Finally, they put me on a big project. 2 months after the big project starts, they call me into the office and say, I'm sorry, we have to let you go, we don't have any business. So this giant firm, 200 plus attorneys, is getting swallowed up by a bigger firm that also doesn't have any business. And I think if we make a shidduch, we'll have a big firm with no business, and we'll start to get people excited again. So that's what they do, and they lay off a lot of people. I was one of these people. So, that's sort of a tragedy when you graduate from a good law school and you start your career and you have nothing to do. You're just sitting there and they're paying you a lot of money and then they just let you go. So, I wound up at a small firm, and because I was at that small firm where I wasn't getting paid very much, well, I wasn't getting paid as much as before, I had a lot of time on my hands, and that was the deal I made with them. I basically said to them, look, for me to afford to take this job, you can't work me too hard. You got to give me free time. I have stuff I want to do. They said, okay, fine. We'll give you a regular 9-to-5 basically job. We'll give you a decent salary, and that's it. I said, okay. So I'm walking across Central Park one day, coming back from a friend's wedding, the only Orthodox person actually I knew who was getting married. And a friend of mine says, I'm sorry, I can do a little Staten Island accent if you want for her. My friend Marissa says, hey, Mark, I'm going to a class. You want to come? I see you wear a kippah. Right? I had been wearing a kippah for my wedding. And I said, sure, where is it? She says, 2 blocks from your house on the west side. I said, okay, sure, let's go. So I go there, Rabbi Adam Jacobs is giving a class, and I thought he was a nut, right? He's giving a class about Passover and the seasons and how everything's connected and all these things. And I say, it's impossible. We went through the Haggadah every year at Maxwell House, every year, beginning to end. My father was Sephardic, every single word, right? Hillel president, Cornell Law School and Association president. How could I not know any of this stuff he's talking about? He must be nuts. So for the next 6 months, I tried to prove everything he said wrong, and I failed miserably at that. Long story short, what happened really was that because I had this free time, because I was at the smaller firm, so I had time to learn, right? And my girlfriend at the time who was in Michigan, wound up coming to New York to work. She started learning also. She was going back to St. Louis to go to law school. I figured, okay, I'll quit my job. Let's go to St. Louis. Let's see. I like her, so let's go to St. Louis. If she's not getting rid of me, I'm not getting rid of her. So we'll go to St. Louis, which gave me the opportunity to go to summer with Aish Torah to spend, because I was quitting anyway, so who cares? So, and I came to St. Louis, and I became involved with Aish Torah in St. Louis, became involved with the Kollel there. My wife and I got married and went to learn for a year in Israel, and came back. And, I'm not supposed to talk about myself in public because I get like this. So we came back, and once we came back, we were very involved, very inspired, because we lived for a year in Israel. We felt very comfortable in our own skin, and at that point, until I joined the Aish Torah board, I've been on the board 8 years, maybe more now. I've been vice president of Aish Torah. I've been in charge of programming there. I've been in charge of strategic planning for them, which is why I called Rabbi Sampson, because we are bringing Project Inspire in to St. Louis along with the Kollel in a joint effort. I am now the president of Aish Torah, so I'm not sure if this is like an AA meeting where I'm supposed to say that. I don't think anyone here will help me get better. So, but what I wanted to say was that, somebody, Amy, had said that you're all soldiers, and that's not really good enough for me, I have to tell you. If you're sitting in this room, let's say Hashem's the commander-in-chief, rabbis are the generals in the field, maybe a lieutenant, at least, If you're sitting in this room, it means you feel you can do something, right? Before I was from, Rabbi Grunberger in St. Louis said, why don't you teach a class? And I said, all right, I'll teach a one-time class. Give me some materials. I'll go up and I'll teach. I don't care. I'm a lawyer. I don't mind speaking. He said, okay, great. You're going to teach the 48 ways. It's 48 weeks. You're going to... I said, are you crazy? I'm not going to do that. So anyway, so I did. I did that. I taught, I think, for 36 weeks before we left for Israel. And at the end of the day, you could do anything you really want to. You know, and that's just the message, is that if you're sitting in this room, it means you want to do it. And if you want to do it, you can do it, because Hashem will help you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good. We're very fortunate to have some people here from different countries. We have some people here from India. We have some people here from far-off places like Toronto. And I had the great pleasure this weekend, even though I've met Ellie before, but only somewhat briefly, but we had the great pleasure of getting to know the Leibowitzes a little bit over the show. I'd like to ask Ellie or them to come up.
Okay, so I don't really know how to follow all those speakers. Those are really. I just think I'm really a regular person. I grew up went to yeshiva, got married, got a job, kids. Everything's kind of moving along, sort of the way the plan's supposed to work. I think over time, at a certain point, my wife and I, we got to a point in our, I guess, practice of Judaism, where you're going through the motions and you start to lose the feeling, and we were trying to figure out ways to get that back. My wife sort of fell into a JWRP women's trip. She was a city leader, and she came back a changed person, and basically told me that I had to go on a trip because she couldn't explain what it meant. So I've now gone on a men's JWRP trip, a second level, and we just came back from the couples trip together. My wife's gone on 2 JWRP women's trips, and those trips basically really transformed our lives. They gave us the confidence to be able to go out and meet sort of less affiliated Jews, who in Toronto happens to be, we all live like literally next door to each other. Our neighbor is not affiliated at all, and we're good friends with them. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without having gotten the confidence that the trips gave me. I realized that, and actually listening to all the speakers, everybody comes from different backgrounds. Some are less observant, some are more observant. Some started out less observant, I started out fully observant. And it seems to be there's a common theme, and that's what I found on the trip. The common theme is everybody's looking for some sort of way to bring some more spirituality, some more passion into their life about their Judaism. And that's what we found on the trips, and we've sort of translated that into our community. We have one of the things on the trips, as most of you know, is that there's a requirement for follow-up. And what we've done is a one-on-one learning program, and we're lucky to have around the corner from us the village shul, and Rabbi Sittner in the village shul was on a trip with me, and together we really he brought in the less affiliated people. I went to my shul and my friends and got charusas for them, and my wife has done the same with the women and Rebbitzin Sittner, and we now have for the men, we have about 120 or 130 people learning, and the women have about, I think, 50 people learning, and it's transformed our house and our life because we realize that we have much more in common with like my neighbor, my less affiliated neighbor, than I would have thought a couple of years ago. And it's transformed our family. Like, every week my kids will ask us, like, are we having guests for Shabbos? Who's coming over, right? And when we don't have, they're like, oh, this is gonna be such a boring Shabbos, And I think our kids have seen the way we interact with our guests, and they've taken it really to the next level. A lot of the people on the trip have kids similar ages as our kids. We have an 18-year-old, 16-year-old, and 2 little boys. But the teenagers, will have families over, and they'll have their own. And our kids will be, just sort of becoming friends with their kids. And we actually had, I know this is going to be videotaped now, but we actually had one of the families we had over was a woman that was on my wife's trip, and she had a daughter the same age as my daughters. And when she left on that Shabbos meal that we had them over with, she told my wife later that her daughter really didn't want to come, like, what am I going to do with these Orthodox girls? I have nothing in common with them. And when she left, the daughter told the mother, like, wow, those girls rock Orthodoxy. So what we learned from that was that just being us, just being who we are, just being real is really what's going to impact. We're real, we're friends with them, and we hang out, and really, we don't see us changing the world, but apparently Rabbi Samson keeps telling us we are. We just think we're just being ourselves and growing in our Judaism. So.
There's one of the phenomenons that everybody's involved with is these challah bakes. We have a couple of people in the room who are very involved in the challah bakes. We have people outside the room also that have done amazing things. There was a challah bake that was sort of arranged by the Teaneck people. It's going on in Passaic, and I said, who's arranging this? So, oh, Debbie Roland-Zelinsky. So it's like, wow, Debbie Roland-Zelinsky, who's someone that we've known for many years. It's amazing what one person could do. And I just asked her if she would, is she here? Yes, there, to come and say a few words, and then we'll get to the...
First of all, I want to say it wasn't just me. It was a team of people. So I guess I'm representing the city leaders of Bergen, Jay and Spire. And I just want to go back because many of the city leaders come from very different places. And I just want to tell you 2 minutes of where I came from. I grew up totally Reform in Westchester County. And for 6 years, all through high school and college, I had my Irish Catholic boyfriend, John Kevin Patrick Busby. And it's true, can't make this stuff up. And actually all through college for 4 summers, this is true, what I'm about to tell you, but for 4 summers during college, I actually sold Bibles door to door in Alabama, Texas, and Oklahoma for 80 hours a week. So I put myself through college that way. I wasn't proselytizing, and it was all kosher, and it's a long story, but we don't have much time. So, but fast forward, after college, I was living on the Lower East Side, and there was an article in New York Magazine that said, "The New Orthodox." And there was this yuppie couple on the cover of New York Magazine. It was in the late 80s. I don't know if any of you remember it. But it talked all about Lincoln Square and Rabbi Buchwald, and I really connected to it because I actually lived in Israel for 1 year after college. And even in Israel, I dated a Druze who was from, he's Tel Aviv University, served in the Israeli army, like he was an amazing person. But to me, it was like if you're a good person, if you're a caring person, that was all that was important. That was what I grew up with. And so I really didn't connect to the Jewish guys. And but in this New York Magazine, it talked about Lincoln Square, Rabbi Buchwald. So I would take 3 subways up to Lincoln Square, and I started taking Rabbi Buchwald's beginner service, and then I would take 3 subways down, do my laundry. But at the same time, there was a discovery seminar that was given at Aish Torah in Israel. So in the late 80s, it was a week long in the Old City. And I went to that week of learning, and Rabbi Cooper Smith and Mati Berger, there were all these young rabbis in their late 20s, and I was at their discovery seminar when they were all in their 20s. And what was amazing to me was 25 years later, here I am, and I've come a long way since Bible selling. And I just have to say that I'm forever grateful, really, to Aish Torah because I took many classes with them, and really the Chizuk mission also that I'm just going to plug. It's for the last 7 years I've gone. It's a week of learning. I call it Sheer Heaven because it's just Shiurim all day long. SD and many people from this room are from the Chizuk mission. That for us to stay strong and for us to be able to do Kiruv, we have to strengthen ourselves. We have to mechazek ourselves in order to mechazek others. And I just want to say that it took me many years before I felt comfortable doing Kiruv. I felt like I don't have the knowledge. What if they ask me questions? I don't have that book knowledge that a lot of the FFBs have. And I realized the last couple of years that it's really not. It's always what Rabbi Buchwald said back in the day. He always said, you can make people frum by just being yourself, giving them, cooking a chicken, inviting people for Shabbos, and just welcoming them into your home. And I now realize that that's all you really need to do. And I realize that you need to do what's authentic for you. Because each of us as city leaders, we all have different strengths. Like Dina Levy, she's like a Shabbaton in a bottle. Like she's just, with the singing, and that's her thing. For me, one other thing I want to say is about 4 years ago, a friend of mine, Elisa Adler, who lives in Manhattan, who's also a JWRP leader, she just one day said to me, she was my first from friend on the West Side who changed my life, but she called me 4 years ago and she said, it's my mother's yard site, and we're having a challah bake in honor of my mother for her yard site. Do you want to come? So I was like, okay, anything Elisa Adler asks of me, I do, because she's an amazing woman. So I went to that challah bake. There were 40 women there, and we baked challah from scratch, and it was the first time that I had ever done that. And after that night, I said to myself, wow, I think I can do this. It's not so scary. I was really scared to do this. And from that moment, the last 4 years, I have become passionate. That has, for me, become my passion. Challah baking, teaching challah baking, and braiding. And I realized that we all have to figure out what's authentic for us, what we love. For me, all day long, I could be watching challah braiding videos. I went to Michelle's shul, taught 40 women from her shul how to bake challah. And each one of us can be a hero, as Rabbi Goldbeck said. We just have to figure out what makes us feel good. What do we love? And whatever we love, we can teach others. And I just want to say that my kids also, if we're not having guests for Shabbos, like they're disappointed. If I don't bake challah, fresh challah, like I don't even remember the last time. It took me till I was 50 years old to bake challah. You know what? Everyone can bake challah. And for me, it's not just the non-observant people. Observant people, too, to bring challah into your home, it's an amazing thing. I just want to say one other thing really quick, was this Amy Lefko that was up earlier from Norfolk, Virginia. So on the Chizuk mission, she spoke. Usually, you have Sarah Yocheved Rigler and all these, big speakers. But they had one of us just come up and speak, one of the Chizuk mission ladies. And this past year, Amy gave a shir, and at the end of the shir, people were waiting in line to, wish her mazel tov and talk to her. So one of the women that was waiting online to speak with her was a very, very, very frum woman from Borough Park. I think she's editor of, one of the big magazines, Ami or Bina or one of the magazines. And she's standing there waiting online to speak with Amy, and she has tears streaming down her face. And I took her by the shoulders and I said, so-and-so, what's going on for you? Why are you so emotional right now? I'm so curious, everything okay? And she looked at me and she said, I want what Amy has. That Balash Tshuva, I've been from my whole life. And I want what she has, that connection to God that I don't have. And I said to myself, wow, I always looked at these Borough Park ladies and all these FFBs, and I was like, they got a direct line, to these people, to God. Anyway, it was very touching to me that we have to mechazek ourselves, the frum people also, in order to stay connected. Anyway, that's all.
Talking about feeling a connection to God and FFBs, I think it sort of comes into our next speaker. But a lot of people have heard of Rabbi Krohn. Have you heard of Rabbi Krohn? Well, he's sitting in the room, but it's not the Rabbi Krohn that you're thinking of, right? It's his cousin, if I'm not mistaken. But he's no less inspirational, because if you've ever been to a bris and Rabbi Krohn is there, this Rabbi Krohn, it's a blow-away experience. But I don't want to, without any further ado, I asked Rabbi Krohn, Rabbi Shua Krohn, if he would say a few words.
Hi, folks. So I've got a problem. And I figured all of you accomplished people, there's got to be some head doctors here someplace, right? All of you people have been on trips of various sorts. I'm a lot different. I'm always on a trip. For decades I've been on a trip. And I still can't find where I'm going. That is not comical, it's actually responsible. I meet in my life people of every walk of life. And I know that we're sitting among the converted here, but more so than the converted, people that have the guts and the chutzpah to get out of your own skin and walk over to a perfect stranger and say, "Hi, I'm Yeshua Kron. What's your name?" Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Because if you don't have chutzpah, you're not part of the Jewish people. It's a pasuk in the Chumash, Am Kishei Erev. We're a stubborn bunch of people who just won't go away. And so, when the rabbi was a little bit nuts enough to ask me to come up here and speak to you, I thought about how I am regular, and I am very regular. And I don't mean in the way that the doctors talk about regular. That's something I don't speak about. No, I don't eat bran cereal for breakfast. I wear many, many hats. As the rabbi said, I am a mohel, and I do bris for people of every walk of life. And I did take a little bit of umbrage with the holy rabbi who spoke about 53% of New York City, or New York State, being intermarried. I actually believe it's way more than that, because there isn't a week that goes by in this mohel's world that I don't get many calls for interfaith marriages. Rab Noach years ago has been quoted many a time as having said that the test of our generation, the nisayon of our generation, is to stem the tide of intermarriage. So, Sherry, how are you and I going to do that? I'm busy cutting off foreskins. What do you do? So, I would like to tell you that about being regular means being just a regular human being. Now, there are people here that have seen me with many different hats, and one of the hats I wear is this. Anybody know what that is? Level. It's a level. And what is a level used for, if I may ask? I'm not asking you, Rabbi. I know you don't have one in your back pocket. All right? I do not use this for bris. I am safe for you to call me to your grandson's or son's bris. This is used in my hobby. I am a rabbi's son, and my father wanted to make sure when he was a rabbi in a little town in Pittsburgh that we, the children, would stay Jewish. And so he sent us down to the basement with tools. And that became a lifelong hobby for me. So I became the tool moil. Now, would you use a moil that has a sawzall on one side of the car and a moil bag on the other side of the car? You wouldn't be so sure that I wouldn't mix them up, right? And in fact, as years have gone by, time has made it possible for me to be involved with my children's cafes. Many of you may have been in the mountains and you know Cafe Chocolat, and that is owned by one of our boys. Spend a lot of time fixing machines. I often come in a tie and a suit, and everybody says, "Rabbi, whoa." I get to the back, I change into a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and I fix the ice cream machine. That is something that's been a hobby for me for many, many years, since I've been a little kid. In that realm of non-rabbi-ness, we've come to bump heads with a phenomenon which some of you in the room may share, uncomfortably so, I must say. But we are talking here about being makarev, people who are unaffiliated. But then there are the guys like me. There isn't enough time on our calendar to be involved in the guy next door that isn't Shomer Shabbos. When I've got 10 guys on my block who are all from homes who are not Shomer Shabbos. We employ many of those young men and women in the 2 cafes that my son has, and you hear their stories. I'm sure I'll get these facts wrong. That's why I brought my wife. She's in the back to straighten out the story. But as I often quip, my wife and I are like an arrow and a bow. She's straight as an arrow, and I'm the bent guy. But you need them both if you want to be effective in hitting the shot. And so as time evolved, we started a Tisha B'Av program. Now, I'm not an organizational person. All I really do for a living is bris. The other things are hobbies, are niceties, or friends with my children, if you will. But we got involved in making a program in Monsey, which is a hot potato. If you've ever been in Monsey, it's very Hasidish, very yeshivish, and I'm like the guy on the block. And in fact, we started a program where we opened up our home for kids that had no interest at all in anything to do with Tisha B'Av, even from frum homes. Tisha B'Av, I gotta fast. When we were kids, we played Monopoly all day, Tisha B'Av. But that is taboo, as you can well imagine. And so we collected various, in those days it was videos, we rented a machine from a rent-a-center, a big 58, or whatever it was, 68-inch machine, and we played videos for them. And we brought in a speaker in the morning to speak from 10 o'clock. We had a quick minyan, sat down on the floor after the minyan, sang Al Naras Bavel, get them all sitting around. People came from every walk of life, meaning kids. That somehow morphed into some connection with that group of people. Eventually, we got a phone call one day from someone who runs a program called a Raven. You may be familiar, Rabbi Gluck. And he asked us if we would, if one of my sons would daven, my children are musicians, would daven at at his minyan for Yom Kippur. Told him we couldn't do where he was, but if he brings the minyan to our house, we would do it by us and my son and myself, divided the tefillas, and kids came in from all walks of life. In the early years, they were more after drugs or in the middle of rehabs and mixture of various groups in tough worlds. Eventually, it morphed over many years. We're talking now, I think, about 15 years or so. And it's become a minyan which became dubbed the Believe in You minyan. It's named after a song our son wrote that ends off Believe in You. And the crux of the issue at hand is that, sure, we do need to have our radar on for people who are unaffiliated, who have never had the opportunity to know Yiddishkeit. But the question is, Imena Nili Mili, who's watching my kids? Who's watching your kids? Who's watching the Yeshivisha kids? Who's watching the Hasidisha kids? There's a lot of disdain out there. There's a lot of people who are just not interested in the whole kit and caboodle. Don't bother me about Judaism. I can't give you an intellectual reason why. Whatever I saw in my house, whatever I saw in my yeshiva, it just doesn't interest me. That's the best case scenario, presuming that there wasn't a lot of things that turned them off in a bad way. And so these kids have made their way. We have a Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur minyan, and the kids come in from all walks of life. We feed them. My wife makes lots of meals. And we find homes in the neighborhood, and they sleep among all people like yourselves who are willing to open up the extra beds in their home. And eventually that has become the balance of the life. I like to use this because I use it when I do construction, but I also use it to keep in my brain that never forget about your own. And again, once you're involved in holding on to your own, it is an easy piece of cake to worry about the next guy's kid who never knew about Judaism. I just would like to end with a really quick story. I was doing a presentation at a Reformed temple in New City, New York. We were talking about Avram Avinu, and that one of the three things that Hashem promised Avram was hashgacha. Hashem would watch their children in a special way. One young girl raises her hand and she says, if God watches us in a special way, why are there so many people in the hospital? So I was very frightened to ask that most important Jewish question. Tzadik Doraloi, right? Why does God do bad things to good people, right? And the following thing fell into my head, and I think it's apropos for a closure. I presume we're closing. And I said, okay. I said, did you ever play with a 1,000-piece puzzle? On the front of the box, there's this gorgeous picture of some kind of scenery of sort. You open up the box. Oh, there's a bunch of broken pieces. I said, it's not our job as human beings to put the whole puzzle together. There is a puzzle master. That's called God Almighty. Some of us get an opportunity to see the puzzle pieces slowly come together. Most of us do not. It's our job as Jews, it's our jobs as parents, as other human beings, to put as many pieces together as we can. That's it. The rest of our Hashem takes care of. Chazak v'ematz.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that you should just rest assured they never start till 9:30. I got it down. Don't worry, Rabbi. So just for you to know, we do have a number of people that I did ask to speak who are in the audience, and they won't start till 9:30, the earliest. I'm just letting you know from experience. So if people want to go, then we can go. But there are other people that were asked, and I would at this point like to call on this a lady with the blonde shaitel, probably lots sitting in the audience. And she's been involved with us for a long time. I had the good occasion to hear from her today the story of how she got involved. I don't know if you're going to say that, but I'd like to ask Mrs. Starler to say a few words.
Here I go. All right. First, I'd like to introduce myself, not to most of you who know me, but to my husband and my children who haven't seen me in like years since I got involved with Project Inspire and Inspire and JWRP. Okay? How did I start? Well, people are always asking me, were you FFB, BBY? So now I'm going to tell you. I went through something. And I decided to go away, and I went to South Africa, and we were on a Jeep, on a safari, and it was going. And suddenly, the driver took a turn this way. I fell out of the Jeep, and the next thing I know, I'm laying on the floor, and there's an elephant foot right above my head, like this far. Okay, none of this happened. But I mean, they come up with stories, people run over by buses, people inviting everyone from everywhere. I can't say I'm an ordinary person, but I will tell you that ever since I got involved, it's been an extraordinary life. When Rabbi Samson, whose name, not by coincidence, reminds me of some great person in the Tanakh, Samson somebody or other, who made great changes, and Ruth Bars, who has raised the bar in many ways for all of us, and Rabbi Barnett. This is a stretch. How about Barnett and Bailey Circus? Anyway, the point is, how did I get really involved? I didn't know anybody who wasn't religious, Orthodox, and I had to do something about that. Rabbi Barnett told me that. Rabbi Samson told me that. And so we did what all good Jewish people do. I went and I recruited people, my sisters. And I said, we have to get the secular people to see what Shabbos is like, to enjoy it. And so, since there weren't any around our neighborhood, we actually did what I guess America did. We did busing. We actually bussed in secular, unaffiliated people from Washington, D.C. And that was the beginning. Ruth Bars pulled a bus in, and we were so excited. And that's how we started. And someone at the table actually said that was the best Shabbos he ever had. It was my son, of course. Because when you bring people in your home who love and admire and are excited by what you're doing, it turns them on. And then, of course, from there, from Project Inspire, I got into JWRP. You know what that stands for. Jewish women are perfect, Jewish women are pretty, Jewish women are proactive, Jewish women are perhaps the best thing out there, right? And now they're saying Jewish men are that, so we have to rearrange this whole thing. Anyway, how would I find a Jewish woman who could come on my trip? Well, Baruch Hashem, we have a large family. We have 8 children, so everyone has to write their name in their shoes. See, even I write it, so if I leave it anywhere. And one of my children left her sandal on the beach in Miami, and someone was nice enough to call and said, I found your sandal. I said, oh, thank you so much. I happen to have kept the other one. I said, where do you live? She said, Atlantic Beach. I said, well, which temple do you belong to? She says, I really don't. I said, can I tell you about a trip? So it pays to advertise in the bottom of your shoes. What could I tell you? Inspire, JWRP, you could go with them or you could sign up with a good travel agent, whichever you want to do. It's my life now. It has become my life. I love it. I love the people. I love every one of you sitting in this room. And really, I know the camera's on me, but the cameras should be on all of you, because you, each one of you, are the heroes, changing your life little by little, whether you're here on the ladder, going up, going down. I'm dedicating my life. I actually almost got arrested. That's another story, but I'll tell you very quickly. When they started the project where you give out for Purim Shalach Manos, I decided I was going to give it out to Congress, because my father was speaking there, and I actually took my Shalach Manos, and I brought them, and they said, no food. I said, no, you don't understand. This is holy food. And my rabbi said that we have to distribute it to Jewish people. And so he said, no food. Well, what makes me different is if I believe in a cause, I believe in a cause. So I said, I'm taking this. He said, you are not. So I said, okay, fine. I took it outside. He said, I'm throwing it away. I said, you are not. I took it outside and figured I'll hide it under a rock, under a tree in Washington, D.C., right in front of Congress, and then I'll get it when they come out. The only thing is, I didn't know there were cameras looking, and that you are not supposed to hide strange bags under trees and rocks in Washington, D.C., next to Congress. The next thing I look up, there are like 6 Secret Service men surrounding me and saying, what are you doing? And I try to explain to them, and I also try to explain why I had approached people and said, come, take this back to your office, but don't look what it's in till you're inside. Luckily, my husband and children were there, and this is how they did. Seeing their mother like this, they go like this. So help me God, it's on tape. Okay, but finally, my husband did claim that I was his wife. I don't carry any ID because it has my birthday on it, and everybody knows I'm only 25 years old, so I don't have any ID. But actually, For a cause, I believe in doing the right thing. In the end, I did distribute it. I did not run for Congress. I don't think I will be allowed to, but they do say I could cook for them anytime I want. And I mean, this is about passion. You have to feel the passion. When they said it's time to be Makarev and to bring people and let them know their Judaism, I went on an airplane. I was going on a JWRP trip, and I took my jelly donuts, and I was giving it out, and I gave it to the stewardesses on El Al, and I gave it to the pilots on El Al, and then finally they called from control, and they said, with that lady who's giving out jelly donuts, please let the pilot go back in his seat. But dedication is dedication, and the women have changed. Their husbands have changed, and in the process of changing others, you change yourself. You fall in love with your Judaism. You fall in love with your family. I advise you to visit them once in a while, like I do, when you're not on a mission. Take a mission, and I see all your faces out there. You have been touched, and you touch my lives. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Mrs. Starr, I think, is this for me? Are you distributing the popcorn?
Yes, this is from Rabbi Noah. He said that what you do is like popcorn. It starts off slow and then it pops and pops and pops. Isn't that nice? Everyone likes some popcorn.
There's only one Mrs. Starler. I'd like to, Mark said that he's not happy that we're soldiers. We need to be, what did he say, lieutenants, we say. So we have some lieutenants around, but I'd like to call upon a lieutenant who some people heard us say a few words yesterday, but I'm really totally amazed and blown away by what the Queen's ladies are doing. They're sitting the Queen Bees sitting over here, and it's amazing, very humbly, amazing what they did. But I'd like to call on Carol Drucker.
First, I want to say thank you, Esty Stoller, who brought me on my first JWRP trip with Long Island. Okay, just want to read a little something about my background first, then I'll talk about what we're doing. Being the product of a Jewish family that didn't provide any knowledge on this subject, just some chicken soup with knedlach, Yiddish discussions between my parents and grandparents, and not being allowed to play on one day a year left me with a void, an emptiness, and a yearning. One day, a friend from my neighborhood told me about birthright chip for moms. And my first thought was, wow, she is so lucky, because they'll definitely pick her. But I wasn't so sure that they would want me. Little did I know at that time that I was the perfect candidate for the trip. Tonight, I'd like to share with you some of the ways in which J Inspire and JWRP and Esty Stoller has changed my life. First of all, I don't believe in luck at all. Now I know that everything is a blessing from Hashem. I learned the dangers of speaking Lashon Hara. I try to speak less and listen more. I now think if my ears could hear what my lips are saying. I've learned how to pray in a meaningful way to develop a relationship with Hashem. I now say the Shema and also specific prayers for special occasions. I learned that I can just talk to Hashem. This has brought much peace and emunah into my life, especially when my prayers are answered, which they always are. On Friday evenings, whether I'm invited out or having a Shabbos dinner at home with my own family, I light Shabbos candles and appreciate the auspicious time to pray. I've learned how to make challah and pray while I knead the dough. It's warm, it's yummy, and my family loves it. I've learned the importance of giving tzedakah, and I've reaped a tremendous benefit from giving. And of course, doing chesed also gives me tremendous opportunity to do good and feel good. I've learned from Lori Plotnick that learning, which most of this is from her, learning that it's not all or none, I now think differently. I now have a meaningful life that is not empty anymore. My faith has filled a void I used to feel for so long, and I still have a yearning, and now I know that it is a yearning to learn. And I just want to say now that I did go after my first trip with Esty on a JWRP trip with the Queen's women. When I was on the trip with Esty, I met some of the city leaders, and I thought they were extremely very special women. And they invited me one day to come to one of their city leader meetings because they were trying to get some events together. We met in a yogurt store, and there was so much side conversation going on, and Tova Began is there with her pen and paper and trying to get things done, and it was really a struggle. And I said, how is she getting any meeting done here? Because she has an agenda then, and everyone's just having conversation. So I told her, I can run a meeting. We're gonna, sit down and do this. And we invited more participants to come. We have about equal participants to city leaders. We now have about 20, and we're gonna add some more because they just came back from a trip, about 20 members to our board. And we come up with events that the women want to do. And I'm just going to share with you some of the events that we've come up with. We do book reviews. We have Learn and Latte series, which were led by some of the JWRP, J-Inspire rabbis and one of our very talented city leaders. We have challah bakes. We do pre-holiday parties. We do ceramic class, paint night, other art and craft type projects. We have some world-class speakers. This last summer we had a summer barbecue where Rabbi Barnett and Aviva came and spoke with us. We had a garden, there were over 50 people at that summer barbecue. We had a garden package party, which was a major successful fundraiser with over 200 attendees. And when I asked some of the women tonight, what are some of your favorite events that we've had, a woman told me that she's very touched because when someone has a loss in their family or a celebration, the city leaders will honor that person at one of our events. And just for an example, we had someone that said it was their birthday that night. Golda Free's husband ran out, basically in the middle of the night, went out and got a big birthday cake, and everybody started celebrating, whatever. So we're trying a little bit to just keep bringing the women back and having all these events, and it's been very successful, and I didn't get kicked off. Good night. Thank you.
We have a few more people. I'm sorry if you want to, but I did ask. I didn't think everyone was going to come because they just generally don't. But everybody came. So I'd like to go from Toronto to Toronto. We asked one of the Rebbetzins who has been involved. We know this is morning lay people, but because of what's going on in Toronto, I asked her if she would come and say a few words. You will actually see her a little bit later on the film as well, but right at the end. But I'd asked Ms. Rebbetzin Mandel if she would just say a few words about what's happening in Toronto because it was so inspiring.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to be very quick because I know that we all want to leave and go. And I said a lot of the things last night, but we also have a Torah 2.0 up north. I was just trying to describe where we are exactly. We're in Thornhill Woods. There aren't, we have our community that's growing and learning, but I think that we have over 100 homes on our street, and we're the only from people that live on our block. So I just wanted you to get a picture of where we live. We started Torah 2.0 about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, a little less than 2 months ago, and Torah 2.0 is basically people learning together, one-on-one, live. It's unbelievable. The people, the excitement, the energy that's going on. I love it because it's in my basement, and I always say, like, my kids are sleeping and they hear, like, the Torah just going through the vents, in their sleep, hearing it. It's very, very special. I just wanted to share a few things that I've learned over this time. Recruiting has been really, really hard, especially getting the mentors. The mentees, everybody was like, I want to learn, I want to do this, which was amazing. But getting the mentors was quite difficult, especially because we live far. I just think it's important to just talk about that because it's something that is a struggle, that is something to really just know that it's out there and it's okay and it's hard, but it really feels good. Sometimes after, right before the class starts, I'm like, why does Hashem want me to work so hard for this? Like, I put so many hours. Like, I don't understand why it's so hard. But it always ends up working out so beautifully. But I think it's hard to get the from women out, the mentors out, because they have lives. They have busy lives. It's really, really hectic, and I understand. But I think one thing that was really, really, like, something that they always said was that they're so scared. Like, what if I don't know a question? What if I don't know something? And I have to know everything, because, right? Not really. But that was a really big scary, that was very scary. And I think from the other side, the mentees were like, I don't know, I want to learn with someone that's like, knows so much, and I don't know I don't know how to read. The amazing thing is that they come. In the beginning, they were so nervous. They hardly ate in the beginning, even though we have tons of food. But now everybody eats, don't worry, we're all comfortable. We have over 40 women that come, and mostly the mentees. But we have unbelievable, everybody's learning the same thing, no matter what level they're on. Everybody loves it. Everybody feels so connected, and they're all walk out feeling like, wow, I have this like preconceived notion, and it's totally gone. Like everything that is totally gone. Another thing I wanted to just mention was that before I start, when I started doing all this this work, I always sort of like washed it down, sort of like what Rabbi Goldstein was saying, how we sort of like, oh, we can't be too fast, we can't say too much, right? But this is like real Torah learning. This is, and people are beginners, people are more advanced, everybody is learning it, and I feel like we sell people short. People want to learn. People want to learn the real Torah. People want to learn. They want to be alive. They want to just take it all in, and they soak it up, and they see how vast the Torah is. And that's what's so beautiful, to be able to see that. My husband went on a trip last year. Every single one of his guys, except for one, come, and they were all beginners. Every single one of them comes at 6 a.m. That means they wake up at 5:30 in the morning, 6 a.m. to learn Gemara, to learn Talmud every single morning. Could you imagine? And some of them didn't even know how to read Hebrew, and they come. But I think that it's so amazing to be able, this specific program that we have is that it's so amazing that we have all different types of people from all different walks of life coming together. You can't do it alone. If anybody thinks that their organization can do it alone, it's ridiculous. We all need each other. We all need to do it together. This is how we're going to make a movement. This is how we can change the world, by getting everybody involved and not doing it alone. We can't do it ourselves. We have to get everybody involved. It's unbelievable. It's life-changing for both sides. Let's do it. Thank you.
We have two more speakers. I'd like to call now on Mrs. Liu. Sorry to keep you waiting.
You're not keeping me waiting. I don't have to speak. All I could say is my head is spinning. Ein milim. I have no words for what I've seen. I've never come to Shabbos Project Aish convention before. This is my first time. But they say imitation is the highest form of flattery. So I'm going to take words from speeches that I've heard. Number one, Rabbi Sampson, he says, Kiruv is caring. We heard Rav Gav talk about the power of speech, and how when somebody says, wow, you can do something, you're something, and guess what? That's prophetic, because suddenly, wow, I can do something. And then when Rabbi Warren Goldstein spoke about getting rid of the big, today, it doesn't just because you're big, it doesn't mean you could do something. Us small people can accomplish. So guess what? I guess I discovered that even though you're a small person, sometimes you can accomplish. I have to thank the Rabbi Yoni Zakatinsky and his wife Shalamis, because they're leaders in Brooklyn, and they are truly amazing, because I received a phone call 2 years ago. They thought that, they had this holiday coming up, and they know I'm a party planner, so maybe I'd be suited. Maybe I could help put it together. And boy, I did not know what I was getting myself into. But there's one thing I really believe in, and when you're talking about caring and kiruv and what you could accomplish, but a lot of people on the speech, when they go on the trips for J Inspire, and they talk about HP moments and how you never know, what's going to happen, and suddenly things become clearer for you. Thanks to being one of the women in charge of the holiday, I now have a learning partner. And we were talking one day, and she was telling me how she went on one of the trips, and now her husband just returned from one of the trips. And they're both from Russia, and how they feel they're growing is actually believing in a God. They come from Russia. They were known as Jews, but they were only known as Jews. They were second-class citizens, but they really didn't even grow up understanding or knowing that there is a God. And I was thinking about what she was telling me while I was talking to her on the phone, how to respond to something like this. And I said, you know what? I see God in the small moments. How sometimes when I think I need him, or I could talk to him, and I feel like he's holding my hand. And I'm just going to tell you a story relating to the challah bake. This is my great challah bake story. Last year, when I first got the phone call from Rabbi Zakatinsky if I would help, part of me in my mind is I do party planning, and I get paid to do party planning. And even though I was they call it a perfect moment, because sometimes in people's lives you feel like you have to do something. It's not enough just to be busy going shopping all the time, or you feel like you have to belong and do something greater and bigger. So I was really I was flattered that they called, and I was like, wow, if they think I could do it, then maybe I could do it. But once I got to thinking more about it, I was like, wait a second, the closer it gets to the Chalabek, the busier I'm going to be. I'm not going to be able to take so many jobs. I'm going to have to tell people I'm busy for the Chalabek. I can't take your job. And I thought about it, and I said, you know what? There's something else that I truly believe. I really believe that making money, if Hashem wants me to earn money, I don't need a job. If Hashem's on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, when he decides how much I'm going to earn, he decides it. And just because if I decide I'm going to be doing something better with my time, Hashem will find another way to get it to me. And I really, really, truly believe it. And it has happened to me at different points in my life. I've seen it. I've actually once spoken to God, and suddenly I just got a check in the mail, completely unexpected, out of the blue. So fast forward. We had a great Chalabek last year. I made amazing friends, amazing connections. Definitely got me out of my comfort zone, becoming, much easier to approach people. We have guests coming all the time. On our Shabbos meal, and my kids, they asked me, are we having Shabbos guests this week? Really? No, we're not? How come? It's really very normal to host bunches of people. We get calls quite often from also different organizations. But this year, it's a week before the Chalabek. And I'm driving in the car with Chani Mendel. She's an amazing person. She headed the first Chalabek. She headed this year's. I was her right-hand person. She's here. And we're in the car, and I get a phone call. We need you. Can you do a job Wednesday night, the night of the Chalabek? And I say, it's the Chalabek. I cannot do your job. She's like, really? You can't? Maybe you could recommend somebody. So I said, okay, there are these two people I recommend. One of them was a caterer that I'm very close with. I respect him, he respects me. We help each other out. Okay, fine. And then that was the end of that. And in my mind, I said, okay, chalk another job up to the Chalabek. But I'm happy what I'm doing. I really am happy. I really believe in what I'm doing. It's the day of the Chalabek. I'm there all day, helping, putting the last finishing touches on what we were working on so hard. And I get a phone call. And I see it's this caterer calling me. And when he calls, I do answer, because every now and then, if I need something and I don't know who to ask, I know I could call him and he's going to come through, he'll help me. So I pick up the phone. I said, hi. He's like, hiya. And the tone was not a pleasant tone. I'm like, yes. He's like, I have a job tonight. Are you the one that recommended this job to me? And I'm like, I was afraid to say yes, but I knew that I did recommend him to take this job. He's like, he's a very level-headed guy, really a nice guy. He's like, Chaya, I think I want to kill myself. And I'm listening to him. I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, the lady is driving me crazy. And I said, oh my gosh, he wanted to find out if I knew maybe that this person was very difficult, and I just threw him a job. But I said, honestly, I didn't know. I told him, I'm doing the Chalabek now. I couldn't take a job. He's like, I said, first of all, I hope you forgive me. I didn't mean to do it. I said, if you tell me, I will never recommend you again. He's like, no, you can recommend me anytime you want. Because I send him a lot of jobs, because I'm just a lady and I'm busy with my family. I'm not a caterer, big time. He's like, I just want to let you know. And I hung up the phone with him, and I put up my hands into the sky. There were a few ladies around me, and I said, thank you, Hashem. I said, he gave me a double present, because he wanted to let me know, I know you're doing the right thing, and I'm going to show you, because I could have gone on with my life, and I wouldn't have known that, I would have just said, oh, I lost money. But he said, no, I was watching out for you. You would have had a miserable time. You would have felt maybe like you wanted to kill yourself. It wasn't worth it. So I gave you this to do, and at least this makes you feel good about yourself. And everyone should really, really do it, because it really affects everyone, and it's great to be involved in.
And last but not least, Last but not least, we have a couple here who I think are like, I would sort of call them outside of the Gressons, next to the Gressons is the Desantniks. I think they're like the mascots of Project Inspire and J-Inspire. And they, along with the Gressons and so many are like family to us. We love them, and we think we can't get enough of them, and I think it seems that they can't get enough of us either. I'd like to call on Desantniks to say a few words.
2 seconds. We're going to be 2 seconds because we know everyone needs to get out. And so all I'm just going to say is that it's funny for me to even be in the room with some of these amazing, amazing people, amazing women. All I can tell you, I mean, from a journey perspective, I mean, before JWRP, didn't even know that more religious people existed, to be honest. It wasn't that I was selecting not to be observant or not to do this. I didn't even know it existed. I've told the story that when I went to do my interview for JWRP, I met the woman, and I thought she had nice hair. I didn't know anything about a wig. I thought she dressed a little like frumpy, but I didn't know about modesty. And I remember her husband wouldn't shake my hand, and I thought he wasn't so friendly. So I literally knew nothing, and I went on that JWRP first trip, and it changed everything in my life, everything. And I'm looking around at some of the women that are here today, and if you ever feel like you cannot touch someone's life, I can just tell you, I'm in awe every single moment of my life today, not only for Hashem, but having these amazing, amazing people in our lives. I've gone on now several trips. J-Inspire has kind of been like the core of our lives. My husband has gone on 2 trips. We just came back from a couples trip. And then just last week, I guess it was, we just, after many, many, many years of being together, we met at 18. I happen to have met one of the best guys ever. We just got married for the first time, kind of having a kosher wedding. And it's just, I would just say that every piece of our life, the way we are as a couple, the way we are as individuals, the work we do, the people we touch, our kids, are all so blessed because of people like Rabbi Barnett, Rabbi Sampson, the beautiful women that are sitting in front of me, Debbie, and I'm looking at you guys, and I'm thinking about when you came to the restaurant the night before the wedding to give me a hug. I'm so done. You don't have to worry. And I just want to say, when you came the night before the wedding just to give the hug, every piece of what these women do and what you do on these trips when you go out to reach out is it's not only beautiful, it literally touches us in a way I can't begin to thank you. So we are inevitably grateful, love you guys, and love what J-Inspire has created.
Thank you very much, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, we started the dinner already.